You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast. This is the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me at official Sam Little on Instagram. There's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, welcome back to another episode of the Maple Footy Podcast. And this episode we'll be talking about the quarterfinals of the 2024 edition of the Euros. And honestly, if I am being absolutely honest and blunt, which I've always wanted to be with you, this was an extremely lackluster round of games outside of that first game. Yeah, this just didn't move me at all. I don't know if that's just me, but I just find it extremely boring watching Portugal and France have essentially a mid-off until they just go to penalties and eventually one of them wins. And then you have England and Switzerland producing 5 minutes of magic. And then once again, just waiting for penalties to put us all out of our misery. I've actually quite enjoyed a good few games at this Euros, and I think it's been a pretty decent watch. Definitely not a classic, but definitely some classic moments for sure. But this round definitely lacked any classic moments, and just seemed like the teams were kind of just like, well, maybe we'll win, maybe we won't, I don't know. That's kind of what it felt like, and yeah, it just does not make for the most entertaining watch. Which is a shame because these are supposed to be special, and it distinctly felt like it was not. But, like I said, the first game I did think was a great match. So what was that first game? Germany and Spain. 2-1, Spain won it. And let's talk about the host nation first. Their last game of the tournament, and honestly, they didn't even play that bad. It was a very entertaining match, like I said, but the Germans just couldn't finish their chances. Before we get into that, something that bothered me was this whole handball debacle in the box against Spain. I have seen some people say, as per the rules, it's not a handball, but some people have said, no, it is. So I don't know. I don't think anybody properly knows the handball rule anymore. I think Germany got a penalty against Denmark for basically the same thing. But, rules are, I guess, interpreted differently. It doesn't feel like there's a clear-cut stonewall handball anymore unless someone legitimately swats the ball on the goal line a la Luis Suarez in 2010. And honestly, even that, depending on the ref, may not be called. And, leave it to the English refs to always be the talking point of any match in this tournament that they have officiated in. I don't know. To me, it's a handball. It hits Kukureya's hand in the box. The ball, whether it's going in the net or not, is heading to the net. It has hit his hand. To me, that's a handball. I don't think it gets any clearer than that, if we're being honest. But, of course, apparently the rules state otherwise, so who am I to say? I'm just the host of the Maple Footy Podcast. I'm not a ref. I'm not the guy that makes these rules. I just talk about them. But moving away from that, it does feel a little bit hard to, but I will. Germany did have more than enough chances to win this game, if we are being real. Havertz and Füllkrug both had chances multiple times over, but failed to convert to become the hero. Havertz had, I lost count of how many chances he had. He had a gift literally given to him by Unai Simon. And he just kicks the ball right back at him. It's painful. It's painful to watch. And Füllkrug had an open header, which was really Germany's last chance of extra time that could have sent them to penalties, and he puts it wide. Really tough. I think that's really tough to take for the Germans, knowing that it was a winnable game. Then add on the fact of that handball. I think it kind of sucks, and especially that you're the host nation. Obviously the host nation doesn't always win, but I think the table was set for them to be able to, but ultimately it was not meant to be. Looking at Manuel Neuer, I thought he had a good game, made some big saves. I couldn't do much about that second goal. I will say, though, I do think he could have done better on the first. I'm not sure if I'm being harsh or not. To me, it just looked like a savable shot. It wasn't right in the corner. It wasn't the most powerful. It was at a savable reach. I feel like Neuer was just a little bit either slow, out of position. That's my opinion. I know the goalkeepers always kind of catch their flack if they let in the goal of the tournament. So maybe I'm just being harsh. I don't know. What do you think? That's just my opinion on the matter. Looking at the defense, Kimmich. What a performance. Truly just brilliant. One of the best of the tournament, genuinely, and I'm not even exaggerating. I thought he was phenomenal. He hardly put a foot wrong. Assisted that Vert's last-minute screamer. And, yeah, his performances deserve to be on the winning side. And I know that the losers never get the man of the match, but if I was to give a man of the match, it would have been him. I thought he was unreal, and I wish more people were talking about his performance, but like I said, not being on the winning side, you're not going to get the praise regardless of if you deserve it or not. So, top performance from Kimmich. I thought he was unreal. Their center backs I thought were decent. Todd didn't do anything to stand out in my opinion, but Rudiger did, and it wasn't for the better. I thought he was, in all fairness, I thought he was solid, but yeah, that second goal is on him. It is. He's caught flat-footed, ball watching, and just lets the Spaniard hop over him and say, hey, thanks. And they're at the tournament. I love Rudiger. I think he's a great center back in this. I don't think that's a tournament-defining moment for him by any means. I think he had a great showing for sure. Proved why he is one of the best center backs in the world still. But just those moments of lack of concentration have always haunted Rudiger. Trust me, I'm a Chelsea fan. I've seen it multiple times. And this was just one of those moments. And it is a shame. But yeah, you can't not mention it in my opinion. The midfield for Germany was lackluster. I thought Kroos was lucky to be on the pitch. He should have been yellow carded about 10 minutes in when he decided to just destroy Pedri's knee. He should have been yellow carded for that. He did pick up a yellow card later in the match, so that should have been his second yellow. And then even if we don't yellow card him for, say, that Pedri challenge, there was a moment either at the end of the game or in extra time where he just straight up pulled the guy back and it wasn't given. Now, I understand that at any moment during this tournament could have been his last game, so I'm sure referees were a bit more lenient for him. But that Pedri challenge, I know he says that he wasn't trying to hurt him, and I don't think he was trying to hurt him, but that challenge was definitely late, and I don't know. Something about that challenge did not sit right with me, and he should have picked up a card for that. But as he has lost now, this is the final game of his career. So, amazing career for Toni Kroos. Of course it was. But it probably should have been a very short final game, in my opinion. Jamal Musiala wasn't his normal self. I thought it was a subpar performance. It was his worst performance of the tournament, which kind of sucks because I thought he had been unbelievable throughout. He had been one of my players, if not my player of the tournament up until this point. But yeah, just wasn't clicking for him on the day. And just sometimes it happens. He bailed Germany out a few times, especially against Denmark with that kind of clinching goal at the death. So, not like he just decided not to show up for the tournament. He did, just not a great match. A man that didn't show up for this tournament was Kai Havertz. I thought he was awful again, and this loss can genuinely be chalked up to him not finishing his chances. I fail to see what he offers this German squad. He doesn't create chances, doesn't press, doesn't score, doesn't assist, doesn't win the ball back, doesn't link up play, doesn't hold the ball up. I don't know what he does. I really don't. He has flashes of like brilliance once every 10 games or so where it's like, oh shoot, maybe. But no, I thought it was an abysmal tournament, if I'm being honest. I don't have much positive to say about his tournament in general, never mind this game. So we'll just move on from him. Florian Wirtz really dug Germany out, what it looked like for a little bit there, but alas, was not meant to be. They still go out, but phenomenal goal. And yeah, just not good enough to beat Spain at the end of the day. Couldn't convert the chances, and when you can't convert at that level, you get punished, and Germany did get punished. Looking at Spain, firstly, going to be missing 3 players next game. Carvajal, Morata, and Lenormand are all suspended, picked up yellow cards, or in Carvajal's case, red card, and they're going to be out versus France. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up without their captain in Morata, without one of the top right backs, and without one of the top center backs. So, you hope they have the depth. I guess time will tell. But looking at their goalkeeper, Unai Simon, some good saves, but does always look shaky at points in matches. He did this last Euros, did it in the World Cup, and is doing it here. He just has these moments where it's, what are you doing? And he had that moment when he kind of just passed the ball to Kai Havertz. So, that's something to look out for in the France game if France decide to actually show up and try to win. But if they don't, then Unai Simon will have a very relaxing little night against France. Left back, Marc Cucurella, I'm not his biggest fan, but he has definitely impressed this tournament. He looks solid on the defense, solid in the attack, really solid on the ball. Laporte, I thought he was decent, but he was definitely getting bypassed more easily than he would have liked, I would say. And Carvajal, once again, kind of not his best performance. He takes one for the team at the end there, knowing that he was going to be suspended going into the France game anyways. He kind of takes one for the team, essentially just clotheslines Jamal Musiala off the ball and takes his second yellow of the match and is sent to the showers early, about 90 seconds early. Not much earlier than that, but still sent to the shower early. And yeah, just a decent enough performance, definitely passable. Pedri, I do hope he's okay. Obviously, his tournament is done, sadly. It was a very bad tackle, in my opinion, and it is always a shame to see a guy, especially when he's 21 years old and has battled through injury a lot recently. So to see him then go out with injury, yeah, it sucks. But the guy that they brought on, Dani Olmo, I thought he looked good and obviously scored that first goal for Spain. So he is one to fill in for Pedri, and I assume he will be starting against France. He's looked good anytime he's been called upon this tournament. So, yeah, they have great depth, Rodri should be in the Ballon d'Or conversation if we're being real. He's been, once again, immense throughout this tournament. He just doesn't lose. He doesn't lose. So that's kind of good to have in tournament football. And then Fabian Ruiz, once again, honestly has been one of the midfielders of the tournament. Could make a case for one players of the tournament. He's been great, controls the tempo. His passes cut grass. He's just immense. Yamal, I thought looked good in that first half. I thought he looked good in the first, and then he obviously provided the assist in the second, and that's really about where his contributions end. In the first half, he looked really lively, really energetic, ready to take on a man, and then the second half just kind of really dipped. Provided the assist, so, that's 3 assists from this tournament. He's 16 years old, so he's literally still only going to be 20 at the next Euros. So if that makes you feel old, then join the club. Morata, quiet afternoon, not much to say about his performance, and Nico Williams, probably one of his more quiet outings, but still definitely a very, very solid one. Moving on to Portugal-France. So I devoted a lot of time this episode to Germany-Spain because genuinely that's, in my opinion, the only match worth talking about. But I will, of course, continue the coverage for each match. But yeah, Portugal-France. Snooze fest? Did did someone say? Sorry, did I wake you up? Were you still sleeping after Portugal France? Because I wouldn't blame you. Terrible, terrible game of football, and I would say it's disappointing because two absolute powerhouses like Portugal and France, you would expect a great game, but it's not disappointing because France have been really, really bad all tournament, and Portugal haven't looked good since game week 2. So, looking at Portugal, Diogo Costa in goal, I thought had another solid game. I can't really say he made a ton of saves. He wasn't really challenged all that much, but when he was called upon, he was good. Their defense, Pepe's really the only one worth chatting about. I thought he was at 41. He looked really great. And I was critical of him in the last couple of games. But yeah, this game, you could tell he wanted it. He kind of knows that this is it's got to be his last time out. He is 41. He'll be 45 at the next Euros. So you've got to imagine that this is probably his last international tournament. I mean, hey, if he wants to keep playing at this level, who's to tell him no? But yeah, I thought he was pretty solid. Shut down any time France tried to make an attack, which isn't saying a whole ton, but he still did when he needed to. Nuno Mendes, he got up well a couple of times, but once again, nothing really super exciting. João Cancelo, I think, is not a great defender, and that's not good when you're supposed to be a defender. I do like their pivot of Vitinha and Paulinho. I thought that those two were actually very good. Yeah, I'm sorry, not a whole ton to say, really. Leao, Fernandez, both very disappointing tournaments. I'm a big fan of Leao, but yeah, just not his best outings, and once again, just failed to really light up this game. And Bruno Fernandes spent more time yapping to the ref than he did playing football, which is nothing new, but sometimes he gets a goal in the middle of that, but he didn't. So Bernardo Silva was decent. Nothing really again. Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo, I think the team suffered because of him, trying to get him on the ball far too much, trying to get him a goal far too much. And yeah, just overall, just father time caught up to Ronaldo. I know I've said this, I'm not the first to say it, but he just looked not like Ronaldo. So very upsetting to see one of the greats kind of go out like that. And then you look at your penalties, and someone's going to have to miss, and it is João Felix, the only guy to miss. Ouch. It always does suck when you do see a player miss, but really, he hit the post. It's just unlucky, isn't it? You know, I feel bad for him. I see that he's getting a lot of abuse on socials, so I'm hoping he's doing all right. The harshest person in João Felix's life right now is probably João Felix. Anything that the people are saying about him, he's probably thought a million times over since taking that spot kick. So, I don't know. A penalty's a roulette, a flip of the coin, if we're being honest. So, maybe lay off just a little bit. Looking in goal for France now, Magnan was, once again, kind of like Diogo Costa, wasn't bad, but wasn't really tested. When he made the save. Their defense was decent. Saliba, Upamecano, once again, weren't hugely tested all that much. When they were, they looked a bit shaky. Koundé, he's not a great attacking threat, in my opinion. I said that last episode, and it carries over to this one. Lucas Hernandez, I thought he was actually a pretty good attacking threat. Too bad no one on France looked like they wanted to score, but he looked kind of suspect defensively a few times. Any joy that Bernardo Silva was finding was always against Lucas Hernandez. So, maybe something to look out for when they face Spain. The midfield, this was Conte's worst performance of the tournament, if we're being honest. He's been phenomenal throughout, but yeah, this was definitely not his best outing. Tchouaméni, who I'm a big fan of, once again, I thought it was his worst outing. Someone needs to tell him to stop trying to score the 25-yard screamer. It's not working. He's done it now, I think, 4 or 5 times in the last 2 games. So it's kind of just a waste of an opportunity, in my opinion. Yeah, I do rate him very, very highly. I think that he complements N'Golo Kanté really well. Ironically, the man that he didn't compliment very well was his club teammate, Camavinga. They just looked like they had never played together before, which is strange because they have. I do think Camavinga was an upgrade on Rabiot. I'm not the biggest Rabiot fan at the best of times, so I could be a little bit biased on that front, and I am a pretty big Camavinga fan. So I could be a little bit biased, but I do think that he looked better than Rabiot, and Rabiot was out of this game with that yellow card accumulation. So if he'll be back for Spain, like in the lineup, is yet to be seen. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the lineup. I would personally keep Camavinga. I thought Griezmann was pretty good. I don't know why he was taken off in like the 60th minute or 65th. Pretty early. I don't know why. I thought he was really the only guy linking play from defense to midfield to attack. Anything that France looked like they might do was through him. I was baffled when they took him off. Like, yeah, it wasn't his greatest performance ever, but it was better than anything else that was on the pitch. And then Mbappe and Koulibaly, both very quiet, very disappointing tournament for Kylian Mbappe so far. Coming off before the penalties is also never a good sign, especially when you're the captain. So it's definitely not the best look, but, you know, in my opinion, he still is the best player in the world. And if they want anything against Spain, he's gonna need to step it up. You're gonna need Kylian Mbappe. So, yeah, that's really all I had to say about this game. Not the most in-depth analysis. The game doesn't really deserve it. So let's move on to the next one. Another snooze fest. England-Switzerland. The game didn't come alive until the 75th when Embolo scored a kind of just not great goal, but they all count. England shuts off. He gets a goal. So let's talk about Switzerland first, as they were the first to score. Why not? Let's do it that way. Samar looked all right. Once again, I don't have much to say about this game. It was very disappointing for Switzerland, as they have been one of the more exciting teams to watch this tournament. And England, it was kind of exactly what you would expect from this England side at this point. So I thought Rodriguez was actually pretty good. He was really distributing up from the back really well. That's exactly what you want from him. He was pushing up when they were out of possession. When they were in possession, he was pushing up really well. And Akanji I thought he had a great tournament. Sadly, he is the man that misses the penalty. But I do think he had a very great tournament. I wasn't super impressed by Cher. I thought England was finding a lot of joy against Cher. And Doy and Vargas, I have been a very big fan of through this tournament, but neither one of them really lit it up in this game. And Doy does pick up the assist on that goal, but there was just times where his decision-making really let him down, I found, and Vargas just really struggled to really get into this game. A bit sure, and Ritter were decent. Freuler was decent. Xhaka, this was by far his worst game of the tournament. Really, really disappointing way for him to go out, because he was looking like a midfield general throughout this entire tournament. But England really closed him down, and he just couldn't really get out of that funk. And I think inevitably it kind of did cost Switzerland just a little bit, because he is so important to how they tick, and he wasn't. So it was really difficult for him. And then you look at Embolo, picks up the goal. I don't really think he impressed much outside of that. And yeah, that's Switzerland's tournament done and dusted. They were looking really good. I think that it was there for them to beat England. But alas, England does always find a way, it seems, in this tournament, despite not looking the most entertaining or even good. They have found themselves in a semifinal, and starting off with their keeper, Jordan Pickford, wasn't really challenged. When he didn't look great. He saves the penalty. So that's what's going to be remembered from his performance, and fair enough. Looking at their defense, Kyle Walker, John Stones both shut off for that Switzerland goal. Stones doesn't put his just laces through that ball that comes in. Kyle Walker doesn't pick up Embolo in time, and yeah, it just doesn't look great. And then even going back to Pickford, I think Pickford probably should keep that out. Not great. I thought Konsa was probably their best defender. Eyebrows were raised for me when he was pulled off to put on Luke Shaw, who hasn't played since February. And Luke Shaw didn't look great when he came in, so I don't know why they brought out Konsa, but I mean, they got the result they needed, so in the end, I was the one that was wrong. Saka, I will give credit where it's due. I thought he was very good. He was really the only England player that was really pressing. Anything they were creating was from him. His goal was a belter, and credit to him because I'm sure he doesn't have the greatest of memories stepping up for a penalty in the Euros. So to step up, score a penalty, high pressure moment, and to score a penalty so convincingly too. It was a great penalty. So really, honestly, just full credit to him. Those are things that you kind of love to see. Kind of shaking those demons and converts his penalty when his country needs him. Looking at Rice and Mainu. Mainu impressed me more than Rice did for sure. I have not been impressed by Rice at all. I'm, once again, not a massive fan of Declan Rice. I think he's a very limited footballer. And, yeah, just not a massive fan. Foden and Bellingham, once again, you wouldn't have known they were on the pitch. And Harry Kane, same thing, really. Their penalty takers converted. So that's a plus for sure. Palmer's penalty was nice. Actually, all the penalties for England were actually really nice. Palmer's was nice. Bellingham's was nice. Saka's was nice. Ivan Toney's was crazy. Just stared the goalkeeper down. And Arnold's was really nice too. So nothing much to say about that game past that. Looking at the final game of the round of, not the round of 16, of the quarterfinals. Final game of the quarterfinals was Turkey and Netherlands, and it's behind Spain and Germany for best game of the round by quite some distance, but there's a lot of daylight between Netherlands and Turkey and every other game that was played in this round. Definitely the second best game of the round, and yeah, Netherlands and Turkey packing. I thought their goalkeeper bailed them out a couple of times. Netherlands, this is. I think that their keeper bailed them out a few times, made a great save at the end there. De Vrij and Van de Ven at the end as well, really bailing him out. De Vrij gets a goal. I think he's been immense, been a great center back this tournament. Has probably been their best defender, if I'm being honest. Virgil van Dijk and Dumfries looked solid enough. Van Dijk, I think, did have a very good game in all fairness. I think De Vrij, he's good defensively, but he's still just lacking that killer instinct in the final third. That's my opinion. He could be leaving this tournament as a top goal scorer, if we're being real. And he's not. Looking at their midfields, they kind of got overrun a little bit. Renders was good, but he's really the only one that really impressed. I thought Gakpo on the left wing, he looks a totally different player for Netherlands than he does for Liverpool. Just, yeah. Since all my other picks for player of the tournament are probably out and Gakpo is now in the semifinal, and they don't usually give it to anybody that doesn't at minimum make it to the semifinal, I would say he's probably been my player of the tournament. He's looked great. Bails them out again. I know it goes down as an own goal, but that goal doesn't go in without Cody Gakpo. So definitely a very good tournament from him so far. Memphis Depay, I think, has not looked great. You would think that for a guy that could break the Dutch all-time goal-scoring record if he scored 5 goals in this tournament. Obviously, I'd be very surprised to do it at this point in the tournament, but if he had scored goals throughout the group stage and now coming into these games, you know, he could be the all-time leading Dutch goal scorer, but he hasn't looked good right now. Not creating much, not pressing, not doing a whole ton of anything, really. Yeah, I think that against England, that's going to be their downfall, is not being able to convert when they should. And yeah, that's just my opinion. Not a whole ton to say on the Dutch. I think it'll be interesting to see them in England because Dutch are kind of known to shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to the international tournaments. And England are not looking great, but getting the job done. So it'll be an interesting watch. It will be an interesting watch. And last but not least, Turkey. It does suck to see them go out. They were one of the more entertaining teams to see. You never knew what you were fully going to get with them. And yeah, they were just a lot of fun to watch. Arda Güler, just really proper player there. Only 18, 19 years old. You can see why he has the hype he does. He was probably Turkey's best player this tournament. Assists their goal. And really, honestly, on another day, Turkey could have won this. They just couldn't convert when they were on top in that first half. And once you do that, this level, it's always going to bite you. It did with Germany. It does with Turkey. So let that be a lesson to the Final Four. Convert your chances when they come. And yeah, just a shame to see really the last remaining underdog go home. But it was a great run. It was a great run, if we're being honest. And of course, with all that being said, that does bring to a close this episode of the Maple Footy Podcast. Yeah, just not the best round of football you're ever going to see. I thought they were pretty boring, not inspiring, not a whole ton to talk about. Most of this episode was mainly talking about Spain and Germany, and then kind of just flew through the rest. And yeah, just, hopefully the semifinals is a bit better. If not, just watch Canada in the Copa, That's my advice for you today. If you don't like the semis, just watch Canada in the Copa. But yeah, we'll still do semifinal recaps. Of course we will. Hopefully they are better games. And yeah, outside of that, I got nothing left to say. Nothing left to say at all. So keep checking this space for more episodes. Of course, this Copa Canada run is going to keep getting covered, as are the Euros. So keep checking. Follow me on Instagram at @officialsamlittle. You like how I did that? Change it up a little bit. At @officialsamlittle for any of the news for upcoming episodes. And yeah, until the next time, guys, thank you for listening. Cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates at @officialsamlittle on Instagram, where I am most active. And until next time, live, laugh, little.